Well, we're not going to be whistling Dixie today, but we are going to be taking a look at a tool made by Wixey. Welcome to Flynndogg Woodwork. Now, I've featured a couple of Wixey tools on this channel already, and I've been pretty impressed. So let's take a look at this latest Wixey tool and see if it lives up to my expectations. Now, about a month ago, I purchased the Wixey digital readout for my planer, and I've been really impressed with how accurate this tool is and how easy it was to install. And if you haven't seen that video, go check it out, as it really is a game changer for the planer. And I can honestly say, after using this thing for about a month, it was well worth the money. And in fact, if you watched my circle puzzle video I posted a couple of weeks ago, I used that Wixey to plane down all my wood to a ½ inch exactly. And that was a project that needed total precision in order to get those puzzle pieces to slide together easily. And since I was so impressed with the first Wixey tool I purchased, I went down the Wixey rabbit hole and discovered all sorts of digital tools that this company makes. And they make everything digital, everything from compasses to calipers to digital angle finders, as well as table saw fences. So let's take a look at what I got and I'll tell you why I purchased it. So this tool is the Wixey drill press laser. Let's take a closer look at what comes in the box. So if you know me, you know I love simplicity, and that's what we have here.
I'm a simple man making his way through the galaxy, like my father before me.
Just a few items in the box. We have the laser itself, a hose clamp, the instructions, and just a few nuts and bolts. So judging from just the few parts, I expect this to be an easy installation. So let's take this over to the drill press and I'll tell you why I got this. So if you've been watching this channel, you'll know that my newest best friend is this Nova drill press.
Hello, bestie.
And I've absolutely loved this tool so far. I only have 2 complaints, and that's that it doesn't have onboard lighting as well as a laser crosshair. Now, onboard lighting is easy enough to solve with one of these magnetic sewing machine lights.
What is it?
What is it?
It's a sewing machine. It's a sewing machine. It's a sewing machine!
And ironically, there's a little light bulb right here. But the laser was just a little bit more difficult to solve. I wanted to get a quality high-end laser for this high-end tool. So I'm going to stop gabbing and we're going to get this Wixey installed on this Nova. So the nice thing about this laser is that it can accommodate small, medium, and large drill presses. Since I'm dealing with a larger drill press, I'm going to unscrew these 2 bolts and apply the extension wing. So now that we have the extension wing removed, we're now going to reattach it to the laser with this concave part facing away from that laser. And to do this, we're going to use the 2 extra washers, nuts, and bolts that are included in the packaging. And we'll tighten down both of these bolts with a couple of wrenches. Now that we have the extension wing installed, we're now going to reinstall the 2 support posts. And this is easily done just by adding the 2 bolts and washers. Now, just like that digital planer readout that I got a couple of months ago, this device does not come with batteries. So you're going to need a couple of AA batteries.
Introducing the Mercedes AA class, the first fully electric luxury sedan powered entirely by AA batteries.
Next, we're going to loosely affix the pipe clamp to the column of our drill press. Next, we're going to take our Wixey and we're going to put the 2 support columns of the Wixey inside of that pipe clamp. And then we're going to slide it up to the very top of the drill press. Once we have the Wixey roughly centered on the drill press, we can then tighten it down to the column. So now that we have this Wixey firmly affixed to the column of the drill press, let's turn this thing on and start to calibrate it. To turn this thing on, there's a small on and off switch on the left-hand side of the Wixey. So if we take a look at where my lasers are in relation to my drill press quill, you can see we have a lot of work to do. So let's go over to the assembly table and start calibrating this machine. So the first thing that I want to do is to take the flattest surface on my shop, which is my table saw. Then I want to take a board that rests completely flat on top of that surface. Once we've confirmed that the bottom edge of this board is completely flat, I now want to strike a line with my square somewhere about in the center of this board. So I've clearly labeled what the top of this board is and the bottom of the board. We're going to set this piece of wood to the side for a bit and move on to our next step. So I've clearly got a Forstner bit installed in my drill press, and this isn't going to work for calibration. So I want to take a 1/16 of an inch drill bit and install it into my drill press. Now that we have that smaller bit installed, we need to start talking about the X, Y, and Z axis of this Wixey laser. So on the left-hand side of the machine, there's a little knob that you can twist left and right, and this is the X axis of the laser. Let's turn off the lights and I'll show you how this affects the laser. So if I turn that knob on the left-hand side of the laser, you can see I can adjust the X axis quite extensively. It has a wide range of motion so that you can get exactly where you need to be. In the same fashion, there's also a knob on the right-hand side.
I've seen knobs before.
Have you?
Yeah.
Where?
You see knobs all the time.
And this is the Y axis. Let's turn off the lights once again and I'll show you how this affects the laser. So just like before when we adjusted the left laser, we can also adjust the right laser. And as you can see, it has the same wide range of motion. So now that we know we can adjust the X and the Y axis of the lasers, I'm going to take a scrap piece of plywood and we're going to drill our first hole. So with our scrap wood in place, I'm going to drill out a hole with a 1/16 inch bit. Now it may be a little bit difficult to see here since this is such a small hole, but here's the hole we just drilled out. Now we can adjust the X and the Y axis to intersect with that hole. Now with the lights turned off so you can easily see those lasers, I'm going to adjust the X and the Y axis so it completely intersects with that hole. So now that we have the X and the Y axis intersecting exactly where we drilled that hole, now we can start thinking about the Z axis. Remember that piece of wood? Well, we're going to use it now. So the Z axis of the lasers refers to the laser lines that are going up and down this board. These need to be completely parallel to that line we struck in the center of this board earlier. By having the Z axis centered, this will allow us to adjust the drill press table and make sure our crosshairs are exactly where they need to be, no matter where our drill press table is at. So let's take a look at how we can adjust that Z axis so that we can get all those lines parallel. So to adjust the Z axis of the laser, there's a little flathead screw here that you can adjust left or right. This is what we're going to move left and right to make sure that all of our lines are parallel. And just like with the X and the Y axis, there's a little flathead screw on both sides of the Wixey. This allows you to adjust each laser so that we're completely parallel. So I'm going to turn those screws on both sides of the Wixey so that we can make sure all of our lines are parallel. And now that we know our Z axis is completely calibrated, we now just need to do our final calibration on the X and the Y axis. So I'll repeat the process of drilling a hole in my scrap piece of plywood and then we'll adjust the X and the Y axis. So you may be asking, why didn't you just do an X and a Y calibration after the Z calibration? For me, it's all about getting the most precise calibration that I can. That first calibration with the X and the Y was just to get a ballpark range of where my X needed to be. And by X, I mean crosshairs. Now there's a few videos out there that show you how to calibrate this machine. However, none of them show you how to do the Z calibration. And that Z calibration is really important if you ever want to move your table up or down. So that's it, folks. We're fully calibrated. I'm going to drill some holes out with some pencil marks that I made on a scrap piece of wood, and we'll see how accurate it is. Well, it's going to be hard to see here, but each one of those holes was perfectly drilled. And I can tell that because all the pencil markings I made are completely gone. It drilled exactly where my pencil marked. So if your drill press doesn't have a laser or is completely inaccurate, this Wixey may get you back on track. I know I couldn't be more happy that my Nova now has its crosshairs as well as its light. Well, thanks for joining me today on checking out this Wixey drill press laser. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and leave a comment. It really does help out this small woodworking channel. Until next time, take care as always.